Oh, all right. Good afternoon, TJ.
Hey, what's going on? How are you, man?
Welcome. All right. And good afternoon, guys. I am the CEO of Great Gale, as well as the author and illustrator of Afrofuturism manga, Gold Saga, and welcome to the Legacy of Black Art panel from All Negro Comics to Manga to Afrofuturism. Along with me are panelists.
This is TJ Sterling, president lead artist of Ray Comics. I'm very, very happy to be here. Thank you for having me on, man.
Awesome.
My name is Curtis Thompson, also a DJ Specks. I'm in view.
My name is Lyle Ringold, creator of My name is Lyle Ringold of The Watchmen. I'm also with Concrete Comics.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining. I really appreciate it. All right. Here we go. All right. Okay. Can you guys see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So again, welcome to Legacy of Black Art, from All Negro Comics to Manga to Afrofuturism. So, starting it all off, legacy and creativity. I wanted to start off the panel with these two quotes because they are the crux of what we're going to be discussing today. First of all, is the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. In addition to that, there is This World Does Not Move Without Black Creativity, Melissa Kimball. So at the end of the day, the goal is always to work together with unity. That is how we achieve greatness. And at the end of the day, as one person once said, we are the culture. Again, this world does not move without it. So,
facts.
That is the truth. That definitely is. Preceding All Negro Comics. Cartoons and comics during the 1940s and before were grossly stereotyped with their depictions of Black people. We know this to be true. From Little 8-Ball to Washington Whitewash Jones to Ebony White, etc. To counter these depictions, certain companies and artists started to create their own series. And first off, we have Jackie Orms. She was a female Black cartoonist, actually the first Black female cartoonist in 1937. And she engaged in taking on social issues like poverty and racism. So that is astounding. In addition to that, All Negro Comics. Orrin C. Cromwell was a news reporter who was fed up with the narrative and wanted a solution. So in June 1947, he and his brother George, as well as several other artists, published All Negro Comics. And this comic was a trailblazer featuring great characters like Ace Harlem. He was a cool detective in Philadelphia. There was the Doodillies. They were angelic children on fantasy adventures. In addition, there was Lion Man and Bubba. This was very interesting because he is actually the first Black superhero, and his sidekick was Bubba. In addition to that, they released other comics as well. It may be the first independent book ever published. Yet, after all its success, it never made it past issue 1. Some believe it was due to pressure from other sources. Now, as we continue, other stories like Negro Heroes came out. Paris Magazine Institute published Negro Heroes. It was biographies on famous and influential African Americans of history in 1948. Although it covered so many great topics, this inspiring series only lasted for 2 issues. Now, following all of these successes, we start to see the rise of Black heroes over the next coming decades. From Lobo to Black Panther to Falcon, and many more Black heroes started to emerge in America and abroad over the decades, all rewriting the narrative and shattering limits in their own ways. And then, as that started to happen, Black characters started to appear in manga. So following the rise of Black heroes and Blaxploitation, Black characters started to appear in manga and anime, such as we got Afro Samurai, Canary, Bob Makihara, Yoruichi Shirin, Carol Stanley. We also have Kuzan, Muhammad Abdul, Ogun, Claudia Grant, the Fourth Raikage, Piccolo, Katara, Kanami Tosen, Andrew Gilbert Mills, and much more. All of that led to currently where we're at right now, which is Afrofuturism. And although this happened with Sun Ra and other artists, it happened more within the comic spectrum within the last coming decades. So all of that led to Afrofuturism and retro-Afrofuturism in comics. Innovative stories started to arise, such as Tuskegee Ears by Marcus Williams and Greg Burnham, Black Sands by Manuel Godoy and David Lerman. In addition, there's Elements by E4 Comics, Maddie's Rocket, and Infinitum. Maddie's Rocket is retro Afrofuturism, and Infinitum is Afrofuturism. In addition, there were others as well. And lastly, is Leaving a Legacy. Finally, as Maya Angelou once said, if you're going to live, leave a legacy. Make a mark on the world that can't be erased. Speaking of legacy, let's continue with how each of us are creating our own in Black art.
That was a fantastic presentation, man. Great work. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. So in terms of legacy, what are you guys doing with your stories, with your IPs to leave a legacy in terms of Black art?
Oh, that's a great question, man. I mean, all I do is when I create, I think about how do I tell stories that have not been told? How do I reinvent the wheel in terms of the typical stereotype of superheroes? How do I reinvent the wheel of what, typical stories are, typical, tropes and things like that? I'm always kind of putting myself into a space of how do I make a story that is, can be inspired by the things that I loved growing up, but also extremely different. And for me, if I have a library of stories, because for me, I want to have a library of content by the time I'm done. A library of content that can, be passed on to, future generations, but all stuff that's different, I'm saying, something that can make a mark on people's minds. Cause like, man, when I read that story, it was nothing like anything I've ever read before. And that's really the feeling that I want to continue to bring people with the series that I have. Currently I have a series named Okam out through Rae Comics, raecomics.com. But we have a whole bunch of other great series that are going to be debuting really, really soon. So I'm looking forward to sharing all that with you guys.
Awesome. All right.
Well, myself, my comic book is about the legacy of the view. It's about a musical engineer from the South. So in my comic book, I'm incorporating I'm blending between the manga style and the comic book style inside my comic book, as well as putting elements of the South. Go style, how they look, how they dress. Like my main character, I kind of got him looking like if you're familiar with music, Roscoe Dash or Young LA. He has a high top cut with his name on the side of his head, and also has an earring, which to me it represents us from down south. Like, to me, I don't see that much in comics. Most comics are either like LA, New York, or something like that. But I even looked it up. Like, most comics don't take place in Georgia. So in my comic, I incorporate a lot of elements in Georgia, like the music, the style, the lingo, like I said previously, the show Black art, because I don't think we have more reputation in the South in that industry.
So with my comic and the Watchmen, the legacy that I'm really trying to bring through is I just want to show a different side of heroes. Like, when I grew up, the only role models that I really had in like the hero world were like all of these like heroes, blue eyes or like curly hair. So I just wanted to do something different. So when I created the Watchmen, I was like, instead of like, usually they have like, if they do have a black character, he's in the back, it's like he's never really in the forefront of the team or the group. So me creating the Watchmen, I decided to put him in the forefront of everything, and so other kids growing up, they can see that there are lead heroes that look like me, instead of them always seeing like Green Lantern or Superman or Batman, or even like their sidekicks. They would make their sidekicks be the black ones, but the black heroes, they can also be the leader of the group, the headliner and everything. So that's what I'm going with as in I'm creating the Watchmen, the vigilante style hero who is basically in hand. So he's not just a regular vigilante, he's in hand. So I'm just trying to change it up a little bit.
I appreciate all of that, guys. And in terms of the legacy that I'm leaving, I'm the author and illustrator of, again, Bold Saga, Brave Onwards Limit Destroyer. The legacy I wanted to leave with my story is that I wanted young Black kings and queens to see themselves reflected, just like the paintings behind of me, that they are kings and queens, to actually see that. And I found one of the best ways of doing that was to go in a different route and go in terms of the art, manga, but also in terms of the characters, have an African depiction. Even the languages that they speak in the story, from Xhosa to Khoi to Zulu. I have yet to see a comic or a manga where they speak those type of African languages. So I was really amazed to see that, even into the actual martial arts that they do, from Nguni stick fighting to Songwe. I wanted that from cover to cover. You're getting what authentic Black representation is, so that when you see it, this is what it is. You don't have to see other people's depictions and believe that is the narrative. It's all about rewriting that narrative and seeing that the main character has his mother and his father in his life. That's Black love. They both tell him that they love him. They inspire him. They encourage him. These are the types of images, these are the types of media that we desperately crave for and we need to see. Because even when I think back to Warren C. Evans, when he was talking about making all Negro comics, he was saying that the depictions that they had of Black people in the past, they were grossly misunderstood. They were the wrong depictions, and they were always done by white men who had their own narrative and their own ideas. So what we're all doing today, we're all rewriting the narrative in our own way, so that young kings and queens look for Black heroes. They can think about TJ Sterling. They think about Ray Comics. They can think about Legacy of the View. Alchemist, Legacy of the View. They can think about the Watchmen series and know that these stories can even outlive us with a legacy, so that we leave something that empowers and encourages the next generation. So we've talked about the legacy component, but what got you guys started on creating these series?
Quickly jump in that I guess for me, you talk about, you were saying earlier in terms of legacy about when you walk into a comic book store and you want to see yourself represented. I mean, when I was first buying comics, I did not see myself represented. I didn't see any of the people I grew up with, anybody who was in like my family even remotely represented in comics. I mean, there were some like Storm or a Bishop or, but again, characters that weren't created by us, that are not written by us. And that, it struck a chord in me even at a young age. Like I knew that I wanted to rectify that. I wanted to do anything I could to contribute to powerful stories about characters of color, especially Black superheroes, doing positive things, doing uplifting and cool things as well. With a comic book series, I've always loved the sequential medium. I think it's the first, it's like how my mother taught me how to read, was like with comics, just like being able to pick up an interesting book that was visually appealing and then get me into the story and then help me with, so again, I think comics in any type of visual medium is extremely needed for younger kids, because that's how they, digest a lot of information and how they learn. So it inspires me to this day to continue to create content that younger people can, see on the shelves. They can see themselves represented and really take that to the next level. So in terms of my personal books, Alchemist, my flagship title, is inspired by all the things I loved growing up. I mean, I grew up doing martial arts. I'm a big martial arts person. I loved anime. I loved manga. I loved the Sentai genre. I loved comics like Spawn. And I was a big fan of all of the 90s style stuff that was going on, games, TV, everything. So I kind of put a lot of those influences into Alchemist and kind of created a very different narrative surrounding that, and something that a lot of people have liked over the years, and I'm very, very grateful for that. And hopefully we continue to take that inspiration and just build upon it and do some really cool stuff.
Awesome.
Comic, what inspired me, I used to write all the time in middle school and high school. Most people do get your own characters, but what inspired me to go with the View is because I wanted to write for Marvel and DC, but I seen so many articles about Yeah, if you write for Batman, like they might deny you, but also just run with your idea or a version of your idea and won't tell you about it or give you credit, because in result there is their IP. I decided to do that, and so if you notice, he's more of a street based hero. I'm writing him as he'll be like a Daredevil or a Gambit or somebody like that. Or Casey. Really, he's kind of based off of Casey Jones from Turtles. But then I was like, I gotta give him a new element. So I like, what do I know? I'm new to this comic book industry. I just know basic stuff, but I do know the music industry. So what got me that was it was an issue of Iron Man at Eminem when Eminem, and it's an issue of Spider-Man with the Kingpin and Birdman. So I took that idea and ran with it. So I can put my comic fully in the industry, because the culture right now of hip hop is big. So I knew that'd be a draw because of that anyway. And plus, the comic book industry, from my eyes looking from the outside, they probably not all the way into that field of hip hop. So I said, if I incorporate the two, I could have a niche market and show one side how the comic book industry is superheroes and people like us inside books that people relate to. The other side, music, and give a real insight of how it really is in the South, because they used to seeing big tall buildings in city blocks and not trees and abandoned houses and stuff like that. And so that's why I did it. Plus I did it for my children as well. Like right now I got two little girls. You might see my daughter behind right now, but I don't really have a superhero they can go to the store right now to go purchase, like for Halloween. Like, yeah, they can go be Captain Marvel. That's cool. That's a strong female superhero right now. But like, how long is before I see a Monica Rambeau costume in there? If she's gonna get one. So it just, I wanted something for them so they can look up and say, hey, they look like me. I can inspire to be them. Because what got me also in that, I seen a white kid dressed as Black Panther, and that spoke to me because that kid didn't see him being a black superhero or anything like. He just seen a cool superhero that he wanted to aspire to be, so he got him a Black Panther costume and wore that. And it wasn't even for Halloween; it was just something he wore just because. So that really inspired me. Like, I can get not only people of color, but white people and Asian people or whoever to aspire to be a black superhero. So that's what I'm doing.
Oh,
He's had difficulties, but I have a question for you, TJ. He might be back. Let's see.
Yeah, let's see if he's back before we go.
Yeah, but since your comments based on the Power Rangers, or per se, how did you feel about the Black Ranger growing up? Did you feel like he looked like you, or like somebody you can see representation in?
I guess I can quickly just say that I was more inspired by the Sentai genre versus just the Power Rangers, and I clarify that with folks just because the Sentai is a genre that exists like years and years before the Power Rangers ever did. And it's really just the genre of someone in a costume fighting monsters. But I would definitely say that was one of my more favorite series, along with like VR Troopers and Beetleborgs and what is it called? A few other joints, the Guyver. So a lot of those inspirations kind of came to mind. But I would definitely say Zach was, to me, the only character I could relate to on the entire show. You know what I'm saying? But
Okay.
they always had one person. Like JB was the only black dude on VR Troopers, and that was my dude. Like JB was like the shit. So excuse my language. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like we see the one person that reflects us, and then we relate to them, and that's really all we've always gotten in the past. Like I would love to see like 5 team members that look like us, or the entire team, and we can really be the ones that push that narrative and make that change, as long as we are creating the content. But we got to have the library, you know what I mean? Like we have to have a library that we can pull from, and we want to talk to big studios and these companies. We got to have that library to pull from. Like the library is the key.
Okay. I guess he's back now.
Oh, my bad. But like I was saying, just like with the both of them growing up, I didn't really see that much representation like that looks like me in the hero world. So like the first hero that really caught my attention was really like, you know, Robin and Nightwing, but they were both white. So I would literally be in like my house spinning around a broomstick acting like it was a staff. But since those were like the only heroes back then that I knew, they were the ones that really brought me into the comic world, which was really introduced to me by my older brother. And ever since then, I just always fell in love with superheroes. And ever since that age, I was probably like, I think I was like 9. That's when I decided, I was like, oh, I wanted to be a film director. You know, I wanted to make movies growing up. But as I went along, I didn't have the resources to make a movie. First of all, I was too young to make a movie. I tried writing my first script when I was in like 6th grade, and it was a terrible script, by the way. It was about ninjas at a park. But growing up, I actually got into this Columbia in Chicago, which is an art school, and I was going to study television and film and script writing there, but I ended up going a different route. So then later down the road, I met a guy named David Kirkman, and he makes films. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he makes a lot of like short films with like Static Shock. So he makes like black short films like Static Shock, Hardware, you know, the Milestone comics and everything. And ever since I met him in 2018, that's when I started making my own comic, making my own heroes and everything. And then lately, back in I think 2020, is when I decided to make The Watchmen. So that's really what inspired me to get into comics, was my love for, you know, Robin and Nightwing growing up.
Awesome. At the end of the day, I love all of that because it's all about learning from where we were, and what inspired us, doing something. Because we've seen the misrepresentation that has been out there. I mean, even when I think representation with hip hop and manga, there's an anime called Hypnosis Mike. And although we know that hip hop was started by Black people, in the first episode, you hardly, if actually at all, you don't see any Black people reference, but they have the music in there. At the end of the day, the goal is that ownership is the new Black, and each of us is filling the gap in one way or another. That's why I love what Jordan Peele said: story is the greatest catalyst for change. And in terms of what got me started in making all of this, I was tired of reading manga and seeing an anime and not seeing ourselves represented. I mean, when I was a kid growing up, the first thing I ever remember reading as a manga was Nepek. I mean, One Piece. I couldn't read the letters properly. I didn't know the O was really an O. I saw a pirate. I saw another thing, and ever since then, it's been 20 something years, and I'm still inspired by what they were able to accomplish. But what I noticed is with them, with misrepresentation in Naruto, with certain ninjas and other stories, they have this thing about seeing who we are and then looking at a carbon copy version of what we are, our culture, our personalities, how we talk, and then putting in their stories. And I feel like you never get that authenticity, because authenticity, you can't copy and paste that. At the end of the day, the truth is who you are always shines through in what you do. So after seeing all the misrepresentation in manga, and instead of hating and just commenting, I actually wanted to do something about it. So after 2 years of doing research and studying and learning some of the languages, because again, I speak English. Also, Khoi, Zulu, those are my natural languages. And it was a language barrier to get there, because in manga, they speak many languages, you know, German, Russian, French, but I hardly ever see African languages being showcased. So I wanted to honor our culture that way. And years later, I actually have finished it. So it's all about going, having the idea, seeing the problem, and actually providing a solution, not just talking about it. Action speaks louder than words in that regard. So, as we continue, what was the hardest part of making your comics?
I'll go ahead. The part for me was making my comic is basically price points. Um, um, 2 years. I've basically been in 2 years in the game now, and basically I'm seeing that how eager you is to find an artist, writer, editor, whatever, is how much they're going to charge you. So if you like really eager, they're going to charge you a higher price. So my downfall was like, what's the correct price I should be paying somebody to do this work for me? I'm been told $40 a page. I've been told $120 a page, and it could be the same quality. So you confuse it at that rate. So like that was my biggest point. That right now I have two other comics I'm doing besides the View, and the speed when they're creating it is different, but the price is similar. So that's what I'm running to now. It's like basically just the price and a rate of time it takes to a page. Just take just take a week. That's just all that boils down to for me. But writing wise, like I got like 2 or 3 books filled up with stories. Like the View, I got planned 100 issues planned for that, and I got probably, as of right now, I started about writing. I got 25 them written. I just got to break it down to the outline for the panels. Besides that, the writing part is easy. To carry the concepts already done. All I need is a panel work and artwork, and I'm there. And printing. And printing is not too bad. I found me a decent printer, so I don't have to worry about printing. But it just finding the artist to do the work in a timely manner is my biggest downfall.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point, man. I would definitely say that finding an artist that you can work with long term is always like the biggest hurdle that a lot of creative companies go through. I mean, I'm the writer and artist on my flagship title, Okemos. So that isn't as bad for me. I guess my biggest issue really is just making sure that I'm always consistent and I'm always bringing out new material and staying on schedule, because I like to drop a new book every year, and I've been trying to increase that with 2 books a year and things like that. So just having the a higher level of speed in terms of creativity is a big thing for me. Finances are one of those things. Like I'm a saver, so like I saved a big chunk of money to start my comic book company, and that really helped me kind of get off the ground. Printing wasn't too hard to find. I mean, printers are really cool nowadays. Like you can get free samples, you can figure out what type of quality you're looking for, the price point on that. But yeah, when you are looking for an artistic team and someone to collaborate with, because I am working on like 5 or 6 other books right now behind the scenes, and it's all like building those relationships with those individuals. So when I am working with them, I can trust them to do what what I need them to do, and I don't have to like handhold or anything like that. So for me, definitely making sure a good creative team is behind you is a big thing, but also just staying consistent is like the biggest thing. I think we want to be around for a long time, and that really requires building the right way with the people who are supporting us, honoring them, respecting them, and serving them as much as best we can. But yeah, that's what I'd say about that.
I guess the hardest part for me, honestly, the writing part was easy because I've always been a good writer. School, I always got good grades on like papers and everything. But the hardest part, I'll probably say, was like finding someone, because I spent like 3 years trying to find like how to make the book actually, because I didn't know who could help me produce a book. And then that's when I ran into Lonzo, who is the owner of Concrete Comics, in around 2019. and me and him started talking. And he told me that he could help provide me with the artists, the colorists, the production people to help me make my book, bring it to life. So really the only hard part was getting the whole process started, then the figuring out like the different price ranges. But everything else, it was just pretty simple, and they helped me out a lot. So it's not like a lot is on my shoulder. The most that I have to really do is like approve everything, like just approving the artwork, because I have great artists, I have great colorists. The editor Daniel, he's great. My artist Leandro, he's great. So they really take some of the pressure off my shoulders. All I really have to do is write and do on my book. So it's not really that me, really.
Got it. For me, one of the hardest parts of making my series was that I haven't seen anything like it. So I'm literally drawing from like thin air when I made it, because like when it comes to representation of Black people in manga, they kind of go back to harkening to stereotypes and other depictions that are not always the best representation. So even though it is an Afrofuturism manga, the depictions of the face, the nose, how they actually look as people in the story, I want to make sure that it was authentic to us. In addition to that, I've talked about the aspect of the language barrier. Another barrier that I had was like finishing it and getting it done, because originally I wanted it to be 60 pages, but then that was like too much, because I was trying to go on the professional standard of Shonen Jump and other manga. Your first chapter is at least 50 something pages, but that was too much. So I had to shorten it. And then there was the publishing aspect, because I did that as well. So dealing with the publishers, printers, making sure it's the right size, making sure everything is formatted. I was basically kind of running every single component of this series, mainly because of the fact when you do a manga series, I can't say this is the same for American comics and other types of comics. But one thing I know about manga is that from the start to the finish, it's generally the same people doing the story. So I don't have the option, to my knowledge, of, yes, see exogenesis. Specks has got that right there. It's literally all about showing proper representation, but it also takes time, because you have to have the same artists, the same writers, everything. It's got to be consistent so that you stay true and consistent to the core of the story. Too much fluctuation, and then your work does not work for the long term. So overcoming all of those hurdles, those were very hard. I mean, even just to get the book done and print it and to hold it, it took me a month. I had to resize and reformat it 24 times to get one chapter done, because there was issues with the printer. But all of that was worth it, because at the end of the day, it's done. So no matter how many challenges or limits that happen, I found a way to destroy all of them and get it out so that more people can see all of this amazing Black excellence, because that's what it's all about. We've all finished our stories, we've got it out, we're getting it out, and now we're sharing it so that others can be inspired by it. So what has been the most rewarding part of making your comics?
I quickly just say that the love and the reaction of the people that read the stories, and how invested they become into the stories, and how they start to see the vision that you put down. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've always had a vision for the characters within Okemos to be more than just on the comic book page. And you get people come up to you and say, man, I want to see this in Netflix, and I want to see this in animation and all this other stuff. Like, they can see it, and that really is a powerful, because visualizing is powerful. You know what I'm saying? If you can have your fans and your core group of supporters visualizing the future of your IP, it's a really powerful thing. I mean, it's a really beautiful thing too. So that for me, and then also meeting young artists who see themselves in me, and they're just like, man, if he can do it, I can do it. And they get inspired by the work that we create, and then they ask for advice, or they want to intern, or they want some type of mentorship. I mean, that stuff is really, really powerful, and I just love being able to provide that and to serve any way that I can.
For me, it was I have more white people buy my comic than Black people, and not because they just want it, because they're glad to see they're used to seeing the Bishop, the Green Lantern, the Storm. I want to say Black Panther, the War Machine, just in comic books in general. But apparently, them just being blind to it, they don't see it. So they're amazed at it. It's, I guess basically seeing a black guy headline a comic book, or in I guess a black creator putting on a black comic book that looks good. Like I get like just I had one of my personal friends come to my house and say that he's glad to see somebody's doing it, putting a black super out there. Even though Black Panther movie just came out, he's telling me he's glad to see it. Like he's aware of Black Panther, but I guess at the same time, it's not real to him. It's more like fantasy. And I guess my book and other books that I post on my page, people are amazed to see because they're really just not used to seeing so much black art and to me this in this white media. Like I really tell people that I feel like I'm a white rapper in the rap game. That's how I really feel because like it's different. So like for me doing this is rewarding to see other people besides everybody saying yeah man black guy yeah black comic, but other people outside being black are excited to see my book out and look at how it looks and the story behind everything.
For me,
Real quick, man, I just want to just interject. Can everyone drop their website links in the chat? So, because I mean, there's people asking what everyone's website links are, and I want them to be able to see your guys' work and all that good.
Okay, got it. And I believe Lyle was about to speak, so just waiting for him to come back. But in the meantime, one of the most rewarding parts for me seeing this story is just seeing it in the hands of young kings and queens, actually seeing it so that they have it in their hands and that they can be able to hold it and see that look like them. That's been something so incredible, so inspiring. I mean, just seeing a kid yesterday when he found out that I did like all the components of it, he was like, wow, bravo. I'm like, this is so inspiring to me because that's like me seeing a younger version of me being inspired by characters and people that look like him, knowing that someone that looks like me was able to get it done. Another part of the rewarding aspect of seeing this is seeing another perspective, because I was talking to a white lady yesterday and she had mentioned that why I love coming to Virtuous Con, why I love coming to these conventions and these events is I get to see a different perspective other than what old white people have done. I want to see something fresh, something new, something innovative that's different. So it's all about just rewriting this narrative and showing that we can create our own stories, we can represent ourselves authentically. So on to Lyle.
sorry, my Wi-Fi has been a little touchy, but basically what's been the most rewarding for me is I'm like the new kid on the block, especially with Concrete Comics. I just like literally came on this past year. We started production of my book in around, I think it was like around October we started production, and then we finally finished in like around December. So when I finally started posting like promotional pictures and everything about my book on like Facebook and Instagram, I just started receiving a lot of love. I'm not saying that I didn't think people would like what I was making, but I didn't think that the amount of love that I was getting, I didn't think that that was gonna happen like so quick, because I wasn't really gonna make a Instagram page for my book. I don't know why, but I'm never really like on like Instagram and everything like that much 24/7 a day, and I felt like that was the most tedious thing to do because you have to keep posting, multiple times a day. You have to keep interacting with people, and I'm not really on like Instagram like that. So that probably was the most hard part for me from like your previous question, was probably like my Instagram, controlling my Instagram page and figuring out all the algorithms. But from when I started posting like pictures of like my art, the artwork that I was getting done, or like pages from the comic book, people just started hitting me up. My likes went up. My requests for friend requests went up, and everything. I had people asking to play the Watchmen in a live action movie. So I thought that was really cool because at first I wasn't thinking about making anything live action with him at the moment, but people started hitting me up about it. So that's what I thought was pretty cool. And that is the most rewarding, is just the amount of love from the people that I get that actually want to read the book. Because the only thing I have out now is my mini issue, which you can find on concretecomics.com under their mini issues page. And that's the only thing I have out now. So people were like reading that and they were like really loving it. It's like only a 9-pager, I believe, 9 or 5 pages. And they're already asking for issue 1. So I just really can't wait to see the feedback from when they read issue 1.
Awesome. On to some questions.
Before we go,
Yes,
before we go
who
to our
first?
questions, I got a question for all of y'all. We talked about Black people in manga, right? Recently on Facebook, I had a conversation with a group of individuals about Black people in manga and anime, and the argument came to a head to the point that some of these Black people we assume that are Black in these in that media aren't Black. They're really dark-skinned Japanese people. So how do y'all feel about that?
I would interject that if that is what their opinion is, that's okay, because just because it's their opinion doesn't mean it's the actual reality of the case. There are Black people in manga, and yes, we can understand that there are dark-skinned Okinawans, but if you want to be technical, everyone started from Africa, so there's that.
Yeah.
Well, if you really want to go there. But the point is that there is Black people in manga. And if you don't see Black people, there's Black representation. There's a part of One Piece where one of the characters dap the other person and they put the word dap. There's a part of One Piece when you get there, you actually see the representation of Kuzan and the actual facial features. And even the struggles that they talk about. So if you want to go there, you can, but there's representation throughout.
Okay. Then even for you, when on this presentation, you put the PowerPoint, you put up Piccolo up there versus Oob, you just stuff like that.
No problem. I mean, at the end of the day, you first.
Which Oob is clearly a dark-skinned mohawk wearing, Black individual, but in recent issues, he's now Indian, so it's weird.
At the end of the day, it's a visual medium, man. I mean, at the end of the day, again, it's opinion-based, but my opinion, I consider Piccolo that, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, this has always been an interesting topic in terms of anime, because whether the harsh reality is that there is a lot of racism that exists in manga and anime, especially towards, Black characters and Black people. I mean, if you think about some of the stuff, there was what is it? One Punch Man had, a character in there that was kind of like, I don't know, they were showing a lot of disrespect towards his way, or they were making fun of him. And this is something that I've seen in anime and just manga period, just the marginalization, or we either don't exist, or when we do exist, we're marginalized to the point that we just don't get the same shine as someone else. And I think even for me, when I, because I was a big Dragon Ball Z fan, when I saw Piccolo, I always considered him to be the Black dude of the series until Oob came around, because of how they treated him, how he was marginalized, how he really had the dopest power, but he never got the same shine as the Aryan race looking Saiyans or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, it's an interesting thing to me, because I think, like, unfortunately, they need to get over some stuff in Asia in terms of the racism thing. They need to figure that out, because, they can't just continue, they can't sample our culture and then try to make fun of us in the same token. We need to be respected and we need to be put in there, but they don't have a lot of brown faces at that animation level to say, hey, this is how things weren't done, how we don't do stuff like this, with the exception of brothers like LaShawn Thomas, who's really doing his thing in Korea and Asia with anime. Like, he's reinventing the wheel. He's changing some stuff for us for the better. So, but it's going to take some time.
I guess we got 5 minutes, so let's let's do some questions while we have time.
One question that popped up was, what are tips on the best ways of getting your comics distributed onto the shelves of comic shops, indie bookstores, etc.?
Well, I have my comic book currently at my local comic book store, and it was just simple as am I able to do it? First, I created flyers and I asked them, can I put these flyers in the pull boxes of people who be interested? And he did that. Then one domino hit another domino, and it's to the point now he wants me to bring my issues to the store, and I get store credit for my issues, so I can purchase mainstream comic book through my comic.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with him on that. I mean, just the ease of you can literally just walk in the door and say, "Hey, I've got something. I would like to possibly put it on your shelves," and you build a relationship. I personally think that having your stuff on a website is probably the best, because then you're funneling that traffic to your engine versus putting it through a store. But yeah, I mean, if you want to go through the store route, that's also cool. Just hit them up.
No problem. One way that you could support in getting the book out there, I would say, we've mentioned the websites. I would say also joining mailing lists so that you can always stay up to date, finding out what the creators are doing. In addition to social media, that's another aspect as well.
I actually don't have a physical book out yet, so I can't really, chime in on that one yet.
No
So
problem.
give
No
me about a month.
problem. I totally understand that. And I would just like to say thank you again to TJ Sterling. Thank you, Curtis Thompson. Thank you, Lyle Ringold. And thank you, everyone, for showing up to this panel. Again, this has been the legacy of Black art, from All Negro Comics to to Manga to Afrofuturism. Thank you for stopping by. And thank you again to Virtuous Con for this opportunity. We really appreciate it. And I would just like to say thank you. Thank you for stopping by, because it really means a lot. It's Black History Month. I mean, we've talked about the legacy of Black art. This room is literally the Dwayne McDuffie room. His birthday was recently yesterday, so we just got to give honor to that. And if you want to see more events like this, please make time to donate. Donate financially. Let more people know about this event so that more Black voices cannot just be seen, but can be heard, can be felt, so that we can rewrite the narrative and empower the next generation of young kings and queens. So thank you again for this time.
Yeah, thank you for having us, man.
It's been a pleasure to be here and talk with everybody and get to know you guys. So happy conning. See you guys soon.
Awesome.
Well, thanks, man.
No problem. Thanks again. Have a great
You too.